You can have a simple knee surgery go from $75,000 all the way to $18,000. What's that right thing they should pay for that surgery? We have right now in this country almost like a nuclear arms race for doctors. Amazon bought a bunch of primary care doctors. CVS, the drug company, buying doctors. Walmart is buying doctors. The dirty secret is the insurance company probably made $3 or $4 grand every single month off that drug that got dispensed. And that's disgusting.
So where do you think the problem lies? More on the healthcare side or the insurance side? All right, we're here today with Pat Moore, certified benefit geek and Marine Corps veteran. Welcome to the show, Pat.
I own those titles proudly. Thanks, brother. No, I'm excited, man.
Hey, so, tell us a little bit about what you're doing in the healthcare industry.
Oh, goodness gracious. I am all things health insurance all the time. So my specialty is working with companies, right? So in the world of healthcare, pretty much everyone gets their healthcare from their company. So it's the subset in which I help employers kind of navigate that whole world, and it's a crazy one, let me tell you.
Interesting. So you were explaining a few things to me off camera a few weeks ago, but it was basically around the premise that, healthcare is broken. You call it healthcare is a racket. Why is healthcare a racket?
Oh, man, you are coming at me with a bunch of questions here. So the healthcare is a racket because there's so many people involved, right? Like the idea of healthcare, like having a doctor, is fairly simple. It's someone that helps you advise on your health when you're sick. It's like, hey, doc, how does this work? But when you put money into that whole game, there's so many different entities that get involved, right? Like it's not just you talking to your doctor. When it comes to the payment, the doctor then turns around, tells his billing clerk at the office to submit that to the insurance company that the employee has. Well, the insurance company could be a self-insured employer. It could be a fully insured employer. It could be an insurance company through the exchange. It could be 1,000 different things. And so that doctor met with you, doesn't really even know how he's going to get paid or what he's going to get paid. And he never really had the decision to make. It's whatever the health insurance company told him, right? And so you extrapolate that out to incentives financially for all those people in the middle of all of that, and it gets way more expensive than it should. And so it's why today, if you were to look at what your company is paying for family health insurance, and you saw that it was $3,000 per month, you'd be like, what? Family health insurance costs $3,000 per month? Yes, family health insurance costs $3,000 per month. And, people complain about COBRA, and I most people just don't understand how damn expensive this stuff is.
Yeah. Well, I remember you sharing an example, and please share this again because you talked about a surgery, how, it could cost something different at each place you go to. How does that happen?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, funny enough, it's a lot to do with real estate, right? Like when you walk into a hospital and you see the big marble towers and you see the big staircase and the smiling people, like real estate costs money. And so the surgeon that does the actual surgery, it could be, if you had all the tools, you could do it right where we speak right now, right? And so the difference between getting a surgery at like an ambulatory surgical center versus where you're at a hospital, huge difference in costs. And then you take that back to just how many middlemen get involved. I mean, you can have a simple knee surgery go from $75,000 all the way to $18,000. And that's the stuff I deal with, right? Like people go to a doctor's appointment, just want to be covered. I'm finding what is the right thing that they should pay for that doctor appointment. What's that right thing they should pay for that surgery, that prescription drug? And that's, probably an endeavor that will last my entire lifetime, quite frankly.
I wouldn't doubt it. After some of the things you've shared with me with healthcare, I mean, it's a wormhole you could go down forever.
It's never. It's the infinite game for sure. 100%.
I mean, healthcare is a business. It's not even about quality; it's quantity.
Absolutely. I mean, that's how I see every person with a lab coat, quite frankly. Like every time I see a doc, I mean, we have right now in this country almost like a nuclear arms race for doctors. That's what I would tell you. Forget China and Russia. Like businesses are trying to get doctors. Amazon bought a bunch of primary care doctors. CVS, the drug company, buying doctors. They're building primary care facilities in all of their stores. Everyone is buying. Walmart is buying doctors because doctors like to practice medicine. They don't like to do business. And they're trying to gobble them up because what they really are referral sources. It's like the perfect referral source for the really expensive stuff. Like you go into your doctor for a checkup, pennies. I mean, you still pay more than you want to, but it's pennies in the grand scheme of things. The real money is in getting sent to that specialist, getting sent to that hospital. That is where the healthcare industry makes their dollars. Hospital charges,
specialty
100%.
Type stuff. Prescription drugs.
That's another one right there, baby. Yep.
Share about what's going on with that too, because you told me at one time, you depending on how you pay for your prescription drugs, if you go through your insurance, it could cost you $300. If you pay cash, it could cost you this amount, and then if you go through a pharmacy that you recommended, it's a completely different charge. How do they do that?
It's nuts. It's quite frankly nuts. So I'll give you this is just a personal example. So I have cheated like this healthcare problem my whole life because I've had TRICARE, military. I've always used TRICARE. And so I've cheated it. Well, I transitioned from active duty back into the reserves where I spent most of my career. And just like a contractor won't, finish his own basement, or like a painter just keeps all of his walls white. I hate dealing with my own health insurance stuff. Like I hate it. And I definitely didn't enroll in TRICARE at the right time. And so when my wife rolled up to Walgreens, she takes a prescription. I don't takes a prescription every single month. We were not covered. And so instead of the typical $28 a month we're supposed to pay when she uses it through TRICARE, it was they were telling us it was $400. And of course, she calls me because she knows better than to just do that, given my line of work. And I immediately was like, no, we're not going to do that. And so when she told them no, they're like, well, we have this program that's $120 through Walgreens for people that don't have insurance. She's like, well, we have insurance. Let me want to do it. And in the meantime, I searched GoodRx, put the prescription in, sent it to her. We got it for $21 through GoodRx. That's nuts. What's even crazier is that at that point I'm like, what do I get this drug for my clients, right? I'm like, what do I do? And so I looked up what a 30-day supply for that exact same drug, if I were to do like a mail order type disbursement. So it would have been a dollar amount that will blow your mind. I would like you to guess.
$8.
$1.56.
For a 30-day supply?
Yeah. So we're going from $400 for that drug. That's what they wanted to charge at Walgreens. Insurance, like one of the biggest health insurance programs in the whole world, TRICARE. $28 is what TRICARE gets it for. $1.56. So the margins are there, is all I got to tell you. Like, people need to understand the margins are there in these things, and that's like a cheaper drug. Like, we get into the drugs that cost tens of thousands of dollars per month just to take. I had a leukemia patient have a $10,000 per month drug that they had to take to live. They'd been on it for 4 years. I took over the company healthcare plan, right? I see this super, super high cost. And every time I see a super high cost, I can't help myself, but like, let's dig into that. Let's find out if we can help, because $10,000 a month to the company is detrimental. It's huge, right? But to that employee, they still have deductibles in their pockets and all that stuff. And so they're getting hit hard too. Like they're paying $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 a month to be on this drug that they have to live. And it's terrible. And so if there's something that I can do, I do it. And very simply, I found out the generic version of that exact drug sourced through something like I just described there, through a terrible prescription drug vendor, $40.
Wow.
I'm saying $10,000 to $40. It's life-changing stuff for the individual, but it puts me, I get a little bit on my own high horse, a little bit of a swagger, because every business I walk into, whatever widget that they're selling, I know that the things that I'm playing with cost so much more than what they're looking at on a daily basis, and I know they just keep cashing checks to their insurance company. It's what they do. It's where they live. Health insurance is not their business. It's no one's business. It's just terrible, right? But there's so much bad things going on inside of it. And so when you break it down, that's what I do.
That's amazing. I mean, healthcare is kind of like the stock market. You don't really know what's going on behind the scenes. That's really what it's turned into. Do you feel like employers are kind of just being complacent on it? Not in the fact that they don't want to deal with it, but they don't know how to deal with it, and they're not getting the right information. And then the employee's caught in the crossfire because the employee feels the repercussions of the decisions that the company makes, right?
Absolutely. Every single day. I love that you say that, because it is like the stock market, but let me twist it on you for a second. It's healthcare doesn't have a stock market, right? Like if you have your 401k, which is the other big company benefit for most companies, they buy mutual funds and index funds, and they have these things. And so there's a pretty easy way to find out if like your money's being allocated appropriately. Because I see the healthcare dollars that employees get the same as their 401k. Like it's part of their total compensation package. And when they give all this money to the premium for their health insurance, like it should be taken care of appropriately. Well, the problem is in healthcare, there is no stock market, right? There is nothing that says that knee surgery should cost this everywhere, or that prescription drug should cost this everywhere. It's all based on the contract that someone's in, the insurance company that they're in, the location that they get something. There is no set price. Like prices are kind of made up, right? And that's what it feels like for most people. But yeah, all of that's changing, in fact. So lots of legislative changes. Again, boring topics for the common folk, right? Healthcare and legislative changes. But the legislative changes that happened probably 2 years ago, literally the last thing Donald Trump signed before he left, most people heard about the PPP loans, all the COVID relief, all that stuff. It was all happening in the deepest part of COVID. Well, bills are made in the back rooms. And so part of that bill had a big chunk on healthcare, a couple hundred pages on healthcare. And what was in those pages probably changes healthcare more than the Affordable Care Act. And people are now just starting to turn out. What I would tell you is like the high level on it is like they are creating the stock market for healthcare.
Yeah, and you explained a few things prior to this on like what that actually means for a company. They have a fiduciary responsibility inside the company to carry out the requirements of the CAA, right?
Yeah, and so going back into that, companies are getting sued, is what I would tell you. Companies are getting sued because they're allowing employees to spend $10,000 on a drug that they should have got for $40,000. They don't know any different. It's not their business, but the insurance mechanisms in place for everybody are just not looking out for their best interest, right? They make money on those things being too expensive. Like the dirty secret is the insurance company probably made $3,000 or $4,000 every single month off that drug that got dispensed. And that's disgusting, right?
Yeah.
Like that is, you have a carpenter come and fix a house. You expect to maybe to upcharge the paint. Like it's paint and it's, but this is expensive drugs that people need to live. And for the insurance company to make money on upcharging the different supply chain pieces they need to serve their people, it's not good. And the government has given up on fixing them. They basically said, hey, companies, you're the ones buying this stuff. You have to fix it. And so if you don't, you're open to lawsuits. It's kind of a crazy world we're living in.
Yeah. So what size company does this fall under? Like
all of them. If you offer health insurance, if I were if I didn't join the United States Marine Corps at 18 years old and was taught honor, courage, and commitment, Brian, I would just do nothing but sue companies, and I would win a lot of money because they're all doing it wrong.
Very interesting.
That's it.
So I'm an HR manager inside of a company. What questions should I be asking my broker? Like, what do I need to do to be compliant with, these requirements of the CAA?
Yeah. So first question is like, hey, CAA, Consolidated Appropriations Act, what do I got to do? Like, you should ask your broker that. If they look at you and don't have a lot of really good responses, they're not tracking it. I'd say most people aren't really tracking it too well. It's new, right? It's like cutting edge stuff is what I would tell you. And then what you need to do is just start following the money. Like, you really, really got to there's so much involved, but it's really basic all at the same time. You really just got to sit back and say, okay, I buy this health insurance. When I give them money, where does it go? Like, you really need to know where you're spending all of the company's money, because at the end of the day, it's the company's money, but it's the employee's money, right? It's part of their compensation package that you're spending. And you got to start there. You got to find out who's making what off of your company. How does that all shake out? And go down a rabbit hole. I would tell you, you're probably not going to be able to do it yourself. Reach out to me. I'd love to give advice, obviously, but that's where you start. You ask kind of where it's at, and quite frankly, most brokerages are not prepared to do this. They sell insurance, man. They're not building the stock market for healthcare. It's a whole new world.
Yeah. So where do you think the problem lies? More on the healthcare side or the insurance side, or both?
It's both. They've kind of built up together. They've built up together. The hospital systems, they are not angels by any means. In fact, what you'll see, especially in the not-for-profit space, some of the worst billing practices are in the not-for-profit space. Like, people in healthcare know this. Everyone else wouldn't think that that's the case, but some of the worst problems we've seen with billing, like causing bankruptcies, overcharging, like credit pursuits, have come in the nonprofit healthcare space. And the dirty secret is, for all of those folks, is that most of them are not-for-profits, right? Most of them are not supposed to, they don't pay taxes. They don't pay taxes on that big building that they have. They don't pay taxes on any of the revenue. Everything's a tax deduction. It kind of works like Donald Trump's taxes, right? They don't pay taxes. And
I think that's more concerning than Donald Trump.
100%. But it's funner to talk about Donald Trump. Anyways, they're supposed to provide like reasonable care to the community that they serve because they are a not-for-profit. They're like supposed to be like a church. They're supposed to take care of people. And they, for the most part, like, I'll give you an example, Rush Hospital, right? We're in the Chicagoland area. Rush Hospital is a not-for-profit hospital. And, if you are under 300% of the poverty level, and that's a good chunk of most people in Chicago, you're supposed to get care for free. They're supposed to take care of you. They get money from the government. They don't pay taxes, and they're supposed to take care of you. So if at under 300% of the poverty level, you're supposed to get care for free. And so I helped a lady that had broken her arm and went into the ER. They had given her an $18,000 bill because she was uninsured. Took that $18,000 charge, and they tore it up because she made $36,000 a year. She fell in those thresholds. And if you fill out the paperwork and follow the process, they will do it. They won't advertise it, but they will do it.
Yeah. So, like, if I'm a company, how much on average, if I really broke down my plan, my insurance plan that I have for my employees, you go in, you dissect it, on average, I'm on a 100 employee plan, what could you save a typical client in dollar-wise?
That's a really, Really great question. I mean, the easiest number is to tell you like $1,000 a head is probably a good starting point. But it's so tough, man. Like every company is different in a different part of the country. If you have a really small employer, you're probably buying health insurance through like the small group program in the state. And those are all different. Those are based on age and sex. But, we'll start there. We'll tell you $1,000 a head. It's pretty much a starting point.
That's crazy. I mean, that's a lot of money.
It is. It is.
So, well, dude, I appreciate you sharing more about this stuff because, I mean, I think it's after having some conversations with you previously, I was like, man, we gotta share this information with people because there's a lot that needs to be uncovered in this industry, right? Healthcare is a racket. So, but how do people get a hold of Pat Moore?
How do people get a hold of Pat? LinkedIn. I live on it way too much, is what I would tell you. So the easiest thing to do is to reach out to me there, and I'll most likely respond unless you're like a Asian female from reaching out to tell me about marketing services. then I'll definitely not respond to you.
Gotcha. Well, cool, man. If you haven't already, please connect with Pat. He's got a lot of great knowledge in this industry. I've learned more about healthcare than I ever thought I would. But he's opened my eyes a little bit to what's going on behind the scenes with healthcare. So get educated.
I appreciate that, Brian. You're too kind. I'm sure I bored the ever-living crap out of you. But, yeah, healthcare is one of those things that's really boring till you realize the complexity of it. And then, people start to kind of perk up and they'll listen about it because it affects everyone. It affects everyone greatly.
Well, it affects the bottom line of every business.
Every day. Absolutely. Absolutely, man.
Hey, guys, if you enjoyed this one, check out these videos right over here. And we'll see you in the next video.